Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Positive Prepper. I hope you all had an amazing day today. It's a little cold here at the hacienda. Woke up this morning to negative 28, so good day and night just to be hunkered down inside. um, so tonight I'm going to talk about mistakes that new preppers make, as well as some do's and don'ts. There's going to be a lot of information in this video. You might want to pause, take notes, whatever. And remember that any videos that I put out are just my opinion. Do your own research and do what works for you. And a little side note here, I have cats. You can see Prim right there. And so I apologize. They love my desk, especially when I'm sitting here. I'm sure y'all are familiar with that. So um, normally they're okay. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, so prepping can be challenging for new preppers because there's so much information out there, and it's hard to know where to start or which direction to go. If you watch a bunch of YouTube videos, you're going to be hard pressed to find two preppers that project the same information. So one of the mistakes that new preppers make is trying to apply everything that they see and they hear to their own situation, and they end up becoming very overwhelmed. They might just go out and start buying a bunch of food or guns or ammo without considering the scope of their particular needs and then doing what might actually make sense for them. So the first thing you need to consider as a new prepper is to prepare for different scenarios. Okay. At this point in geopolitical times, anything is possible, from mass chaos, breakdown of society, civil war, nuclear war. But you also have to think about the natural things like blizzards, tornadoes, hurricanes, flooding, mudslides, all of that. Somewhere along the way, your family will be impacted by something. Okay. Remember in the last video, I talked about how every prep you make should be done with a grid down situation in mind, because almost every scenario has a possibility of power outages, and that could be from a couple of hours to a couple of weeks to, if our aging power grid gets hacked into, it could be years. So always keep that in the back of your mind when it comes to prepping. Another thing you should do as a prepper is focus on your skills and on your plans. You're going to hear one of the common themes throughout most of my videos is going to be make the plan. Have a plan, have a plan, have a plan. For this video, focus on your skills and your plans instead of buying all that expensive gear and getting unnecessary preps. For example, a $400 compass is going to give you the same directions that a $5 compass is going to give you. Okay. A $600 gun is great, but only if you're comfortable shooting it. Having a separate bug out location is a great idea, but not if you don't have a plan to get there in an SHTF event. So focus on building your skills and making your plan, okay? Focus on things like learning basic firearm safety, fire starting, basic first aid, self-defense. These basic skills are going to make all the difference in the world for how well you survive an SHTF event. Another mistake that we've seen preppers make is putting all of their preps in one location. And not only that, but then they go out and they brag about, oh, I went to Costco today and I bought, 8 packages of toilet paper and 27 cartons of tuna. And we put it all in the pantry, and our pantry's starting to get really stocked right now. I might have to put it on the bottom shelf in the garage. Okay, so now not only have you told everybody what you've prepped, but where you've put it. Okay, that's not a good idea. It makes you a target. In an SHTF event, they're going to come to the people they know have the preps, especially when they know where in your home or on your property to get it. Okay. Prepping materials should be spread out throughout the house and the property. So if one area is breached, the rest of your preps are relatively safe, right? Most of the time, people are going to go after what they can easily see and get. I'm not sure what the time is, but I think it's 10 minutes in a home break-in. They're just going to grab what they can and go. So if you have like a dummy stash, for example, that's fine, but then make sure that your other preps are spread out and away from that. And then don't tell anybody. Okay, don't tell anybody what you're doing, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Another mistake is procrastinating. We're all super good at that, but I'm going to talk about that later. Right now, you should at least get a start on prepping. Go out and buy an extra couple cans of meat or vegetables, chili, soup, whatever. Buy an extra box of ammo for your guns. Whatever it is, just start with something, okay? The rest will come as you become more comfortable and as you start to recognize what your own prepping needs are, okay? At some point in one of our videos, we're going to talk about organization of your preps and all that kind of stuff. But for right now, at least just bite off that little bit and just start somewhere, okay? 2021 is shaping up to be a volatile year, so I wouldn't put it off for too much longer, if at all, okay? And then lastly, remember that you're not going to be able to count on your cell phones or computers in a grid down situation. So one of the mistakes that preppers make is they don't have an alternative form of communication. Now this can be two-way radios, walkie-talkies, CBs, ham radios, even a weather radio, battery operated or battery backup, is going to give you information on what's going on outside of your home, okay? You have to be able to keep track of that so that you know what's coming and you know how to prepare for it at that moment in time. So some absolute don'ts. And again, these are just my opinion. Other preppers might have different ideas. You have to go what's right for you and your family, okay? First thing, do not bug out unless it's absolutely necessary. For new preppers, bugging in means staying put. Bugging out means you're going to head to a different secure location. Don't think that you're going to be able to just throw an overnight bag together and hang out in the woods for a couple of days. Okay, if an SHTF event occurs, that's not going to be a happy camping time with family. Okay, there's going to be a lot more with that. So you have to be prepared. Your home is most likely going to be the safest place for you to bug in too. The only exceptions to that might be if you live in the cities or you live in the suburbs, where there's a larger population, puts you at greater risk for some form of attack from the outside. You know, for example, if the food becomes really scarce, you know, it's usually the cities. People go door to door to door, building to building, scavenging for whatever they can find, and that kind of puts you in line of that. If you can defend your home where you're at, that's great. If you know you can't defend it, then you should already be working on that plan, not only to bug out, but where you would bug out to and how you would get to that bug out location. Okay, and again, another video will break that down even farther for you. These are just things I want you to put in the back of your mind. So your bug out location then would be your survival location until the SHTF event is over. So you have to think about how you're going to stock it, how you're going to defend it. Okay? Don't ignore your personal protection and your personal hygiene. I would recommend taking self-defense classes, or just becoming comfortable with firearms in general. And you should try to become physically fit if possible. The healthier you are, the better chance you have of surviving illnesses or diseases that might come with an SHTF event. But you also need to be physically fit to defend your home and your family. You might have to go out and do your own scavenging, you know, if this is a long-term thing. If your bug out location is quite a distance away and you don't have a vehicle or a four-wheel or anything to get there, you might have to walk a great distance. So you're going to need to be physically fit for that as best you can. Okay, and again, that's all part of planning. If you have health issues, if you're disabled, think about what you need to do to provide the most secure environment for you. Okay? And then last of all, and I touched on this earlier, is don't talk to anyone about your preps outside of your small circle of trust. Okay? We'll talk about MAGs, M-A-G, which is mutual assistance groups, in another video. But right now, especially as a new prepper, keep your forward prepping steps to yourself. Okay? You don't want to make yourself an intended target because, like I said before, everybody in the neighborhood knows what you have and where you put it. So along with that, everyone in your family has to be a part of your prepping. Okay? It won't work if you only have one member in the house that's a prepper and the rest of them all think you're crazy, right? You know, if you have a teenager, for example, and they think you're nuts, and you went out and you bought, you know, 2 new guns and a few boxes of ammo, you know, they're going to go to their friends and be like, oh, my mom or my dad, they're so crazy. They just went out and bought these guns and they didn't put them in the gun safe. They hid them under the bed, you know, right? Or you have an elementary school kid that you haven't kind of put really into their head about not talking about this stuff. You know, they go to school, yeah, mom came home and she had, you know, 20 packages of toilet paper, and we have so much food now, she's having to store stuff in the basement, you know, right underneath the steps. Okay, so you have to have everybody in the family on board, to keep the confidentiality of your preps and where they're being put, but also having that communication and that unifying and working together as a team is going to help you get a lot farther in some kind of an SHTF event, right? You learn to stay calm, cool, collected, you think through it, situational awareness, these types of things. Okay, so if you are in a situation where you are the only one that's prepping and everybody else thinks you're crazy, start with one small thing. This is just my opinion. Um, Start with something basic, like maybe you just want to put up a couple more security cameras, something that everybody can live with, that everybody agrees they're not going to talk about. Okay. Or maybe it's, we had these really bad winds last year, and I just want to make sure that we've got extra smock ramen or crackers. Um, and then just consistently give the message that, don't talk about this with anybody else. We're just kind of doing this to make sure that we're okay, and start with those small steps. And then hopefully eventually the more small steps you take, and pretty soon the family is um, all on board with that. Just something to think about. So if you want an idea to know either where to begin, or if you've been prepping for a while and you want to know how you're doing, I want to challenge you to a 48-hour grid down exercise. Don't freak out on me right now, okay? From, let's say, 8 a.m. Friday morning until Sunday, 8 a.m., turn the power off to your house, okay? And again, this is something the whole family is going to have to be on board with. Journal your experience. So each family member will have a journal, a notebook, or something to journal their experience with this. Were you able to cook? Were you able to heat your house? What about going to the bathroom? How did you flush your toilet? Did you and your family get bored? Were you able to communicate with others outside the house? How did you keep track of what was going on outside the house? Would you have been able to defend it if someone had tried to break in during your power outage, right? So this gives you a perspective of what you need to work on, or where you can at least start some of your prepping things, okay? Take it as a positive experience. It shouldn't be something that your family fights over and we're, oh, we should have done this. No. This is a positive thing. This is a learning thing, okay? Journal it. Talk about it as a family. Get every family member's experience and then learn from it. So, for example, was one of the running themes, oh my gosh, after 5 hours, we were just sitting there so bored. Well, there's a prepping thing. Maybe you need to get board games or decks of cards, or maybe that's a good time to learn how to play chess, or, painting, getting some craft supplies or something. Okay. Maybe you figured out a way to heat your home, especially if you have a wood stove. That's no problem in a grid down. But maybe you didn't have the right cast iron pot to put on the stove to cook your food, right? Or maybe you didn't have any of that type of food in your pantry. So all of these things, it just gives you an idea of where you're at. And remember, that's only 48 hours. SHTF events can be, a day to months to years. This just gives you an idea of where to start. Okay. So if you do that, I'd love to hear your experience about it. You can put those in the comments below. That would be great. As with all things, there is a bright side. Okay. Keep your life balanced. Don't be consumed with prepping. And then if you do, then it overwhelms you and it takes your focus off of living. And we don't want that. Prepping can be very much gloom and doom and the fear of the unknown. But that moment isn't here at this moment. You have family to love, you have friends to hang out with, you have a life to live, okay? Rejoice in each day, especially on the days where there's relative peace in all of our spaces, and thank God for the blessings that you have, that He has given you. My next video is going to be about the pros and cons of either going solo or joining a MAG, again, a mutual assistance group. Hopefully that'll come out Thursday or Friday. So please hit that like button, and if you haven't already, subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. And thanks for watching The Positive Prepper. God bless.